It was a hot afternoon in June 2014. A young black woman named Ava stood on a small patch of grass dividing a highway in Selma, Alabama. She was facing dozens of white police officers who were ready to march directly towards her. The moment was tense. The officers were restless, but Ava wasn't scared. She knew she was in charge here. As the camera zoomed in, Ava yelled, "Action!" And the scene came to life. The police pushed forward. There were people chanting and marching. Yes! Ava's eyes sparkled through the chaos. This is how we make history. I'm Shaquana Bell, and this is Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, a fairy tale podcast about the real-life rebel women who inspire us. On this episode, Ava DuVernay, award-winning director, writer, producer, film distributor, and advocate for diversity in the arts. Ava Marie DuVernay was born on August 24th, 1972, in Long Beach, California. She grew up in Compton, which is pretty close to Hollywood, but very different. Some days, Ava's mom refused to let her kids go outside to play because the neighborhood was suffering from a lot of crime. Staying inside didn't bother Ava, though. As the oldest of 5 siblings, she and her sisters spent hours inside making up stories with their dolls. They made their own accessories, too, turning shoeboxes into doll beds, socks into doll dresses, and rollerblades into doll cars.
Vroom, vroom.
Every summer, Ava visited her father in Alabama, where he showed her lots of historic sites from the civil rights movement, like the bridge where people marched for black voting rights, or the podium where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his energizing speeches. Ava was fascinated by these places and the energy they still carried. One of Ava's favorite things to do as a kid was to go to the movies. Her Aunt Denise worked nights, so she could take Ava after school. From the moment the lights went down to the closing credits, Ava was transfixed. Her favorite movie was West Side Story. Ava felt like this movie said so much about race and class and the power of love, and it made her want to sing and dance, too. As she belted out the movie soundtrack, Ava wondered, how do you make a movie that inspires people like this? Ava studied hard in school. In college, she became interested in broadcast journalism and interned for a news agency. She liked it a lot, but when she was asked to fish through someone's garbage to look for anything suspicious, she thought, this is not really using my artistic vision so much. So she left and went into public relations. She got to collaborate with a lot of remarkable filmmakers and companies, and soon founded her own company, the DuVernay Agency. There, she used her creative energy to market films and make them into huge successes for the next 12 years. Meanwhile, in 2003, Ava took possibly her bravest step yet. She started working on a screenplay of her own. And the following year, at the age of 32, she picked up a movie camera for the first time and directed her first short film. Action! It was small, but very meaningful to Ava. And it ignited a true passion in her heart for telling beautiful stories about people of color. From then on, Ava was unstoppable. In 2008, she made a riveting movie called This Is the Life, about the hip-hop movement in Los Angeles. 2 years later, she released her first narrative feature film called I Will Follow, which went to theaters and festivals and won all kinds of awards. She directed TV shows, commercials, music videos, and documentaries too. And in 2012, her second feature film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, and won Best Direction, making her the first African-American woman to receive that award. She continued to create movies and TV series, stunning audiences with her powerful vision and creative clarity. And she won award after award, often as the first African-American woman to do so. Which brings us back to that hot afternoon in June 2014. Ava was in Selma, Alabama, close to where she stayed with her father all those summers as a child. He had instilled in her a sense of awe and gratitude for all the civil rights leaders who had walked these very streets to protest and fight for their rights. For Ava's rights, too. It was almost 50 years to the day since hundreds of people gathered in these streets to march to the capital city of Montgomery. They were marching to defend African-American voting rights. But on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, state troopers and county members attacked the marchers. It took 2 more tries for the march to be completed, and by then, there were thousands of people joining the cause. After they got to the Capitol, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act, ending almost a century of unconstitutional discrimination. This film, called Selma, was a completely new adventure for Ava. I had no experience with working on bridges with 500 extras and green screen and firearms and horses, she once said, but I just approached it the same way I approach any scene. What is the story here? It was a story of racial prejudice and resilience. It was a story of tragedy and triumph. It was a story of Ava's foremothers and fathers fighting for justice and equality, so she could be there on that hallowed ground. And that film became a call to action for everyone who saw it. It taught people the truth about American history and inspired people to learn, question, and speak out for equality. Ava's voice and vision are still leading the film industry today. She is constantly expanding her work and her list of awards as a pioneer in storytelling, entertainment, and representation. And in the filmmaking industry, people refer to the DuVernay test, which means filmmakers ask themselves whether their work shows racial minorities as fully realized characters, not just extras in mainly white stories. Ava is truly inspiring, not just to the film industry, though. She believes that art can be a powerful form of activism and inclusion. It can move us to action, to empathy, and to be true rebels, especially with Ava in charge. This podcast is a production of Rebel Girls. It's based on the book series Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. This episode was narrated by me, Shaquana Bell. It was produced and directed by Deborah Goldstein, with sound design and mixing by Ania Grzesik. The story was written and edited by Abby Sher. Fact-checking by Joe Rhatigan. Our executive producers were Joy Smith and Jess Wolfe. Original theme music was composed and performed by Elettra Bargiacchi. A special thanks to the whole Rebel Girls team who make this podcast possible. Until next time, stay Rebel.